All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the whole concept of probity and governance. Basically, those fascinating, super strict rules that keep our government honest and accountable. We're going to take a pretty wild ride today, going all the way from ancient philosophy right down to the nitty-gritty of modern, everyday bureaucracy. Because, it's a question we all ask ourselves, right? How do we actually guarantee an honest government? Whenever we hear about some new corruption scandal, we wonder how to fix it. And, well, the answer isn't just some vague hope that good people will do good things. It's actually about taking these massive, age-old ethical principles and translating them into strict, unyielding daily realities for our public servants. So, here is our roadmap for the explainer. 1. Foundations of public ethics. 2. The constitutional compass. 3. Civil servant conduct rules. And 4. Holding leaders accountable. Let's get into it. Starting off with Section 1, Foundations of Public Ethics, the broad framework. Now, you look at ancient frameworks like the Eightfold Path of Buddhism, and you see elements like right view, right mindfulness, and right concentration. But for someone in public office, it turns out that right intention, right action, and right livelihood are absolutely foundational. It's kind of amazing to think that thousands of years ago, this ancient framework was already mapping out exactly what it means to serve with pure motives and act justly. We see the exact same thing when we look at the principles of Jainism. You've got satya, which is truth, ahimsa, nonviolence, asteya, non-stealing, and aparigraha, non-attachment. Just think about how perfectly those apply to governance today. Non-stealing and non-attachment are literally the ancient antidotes to modern bribery. They're like these timeless anchors for ethical conduct in public life. Fast forward to modern times, though. In the UK, the Nolan Committee, the Committee on Standards in Public Life, gave us what is arguably one of the most comprehensive modern statements on ethical standards for anyone holding public office. They laid out 7 core principles. The crucial takeaway here boils down to a really handy acronym, LOSI. These 7 pillars demand that public officials act with leadership, setting an example. Openness, actually explaining the why behind their decisions. Honesty, especially when it comes to resolving conflicts of interest. Accountability to public scrutiny. Selflessness, meaning they act solely in the public interest, no lining their own pockets or helping out their buddies. Integrity, keeping free from outside obligations. And finally, objectivity, making choices strictly on merit. The whole shebang. Moving right along to Section 2, the constitutional compass, bedrock of a nation. When you map these out, you can really see how the Indian Constitution acts as this massive national compass for ethics. The preamble, right out the gate, promises a democratic, socialist, and secular republic striving for justice and equality. Then the fundamental rights step in to ensure equality and freedom from exploitation. You've got the directive principles of state policy, aiming for equal wealth distribution and looking out for vulnerable communities. And fundamental duties literally require citizens to respect women and protect the environment. The entire document is just one giant ethical blueprint. But we need to pivot for a second, because having a blueprint isn't the same as having a building. A code of ethics is your guiding philosophical light. It gives you the broad framework. But a code of conduct, that provides the strict, hard rules that actually enforce those morals. Think about a doctor. A code of conduct is what legally prevents them from blabbing your medical secrets or forces them to treat someone in an emergency. It takes the philosophy and makes it actionable to protect the social good. Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, Civil Servant Conduct Rules, the 4 lives. To really wrap our heads around these rules, we've got to ask, how much of a civil servant's life is actually theirs once they take the job? Like, can they just invest in whatever random side hustle they want? Can they accept some lavish, super expensive wedding gift from a well-wisher? Well, the answers might actually surprise you. First up is their office life. This is the most visible quadrant. Here, they have to strictly respect the chain of command. They've got to hit strict time and quality limits on assignments. There is absolutely zero tolerance for sexual harassment. And get this, they can't even strike or join an employee union without explicit permission from the government. Second is their public life, and honestly, the restrictions get even tighter here. A civil servant can't just go file a defamation suit or drop press statements without government approval. They are sworn to guard official secrets. They have to stay completely out of politics. No donating to campaigns, no helping political parties. They can vote, sure, but they have to keep who they voted for a total secret. Third, their financial life is completely locked down. On the clock, they must show total diligence and probity with public funds. Off the clock,
They are completely barred from taking up private trade or employment without government permission. They can't even accept outside fees from any authority, public or private, unless the government says it's okay.
And finally, even their personal life is heavily regulated. And this extends to their family and dependents too. Bigamy is strictly prohibited. They can never give, take, or even demand a dowry. And remember that question earlier about gifts? Yeah, they are legally required to declare any expensive gifts received by themselves or their family. Oh, and no showing up to work under the influence of liquor or drugs, for sure. All right, last up, Section 4, holding leaders accountable, ministers and beyond. So, taking a look at India, both union and state ministers are governed by a specific, incredibly strict code of conduct designed by the Home Ministry. And this is set up for one main reason: to prevent any possible conflict of interest at the absolute highest levels of power. Under this code, ministers have to disclose all their assets, their liabilities, and the business interests for themselves and their family directly to the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister. Once they're in office, they have to totally step away from starting or joining any businesses. And just like the civil servants we talked about, they absolutely cannot accept valuable gifts. But what happens when things actually go wrong? If these rules are broken because a public servant abuses their office, whether by omitting something they should have done or actively committing a wrongful act, and it results in an injury or loss of public property, well, that's called misfeasance. By definition, misfeasance is the wrongful performance of a normally lawful act. And when it happens, legal action absolutely can and should be taken against that official. To combat this kind of thing, the ultimate suggestion for improving probity in governments is putting in place ironclad legislation specifically designed to check this misfeasance. A great global example is the Ethics in Government Act over in the USA. It essentially takes all these ethical expectations and bakes them into hard, inescapable law. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. We've traced this incredible path from ancient Buddhist and Jain philosophy through massive constitutional frameworks, all the way down to strict rules about accepting gifts and joining unions. But we really have to ask ourselves, is strict legislation actually the ultimate cure for misfeasance in public office? Or are rules and laws basically just boundaries? Well, true probity, that unwavering honesty in governance, always has to start from within the individual. Definitely something to think about the next time you're observing the leaders and public servants in your own community.